All right, so thanks everybody. Thank you, Mike. Love being here. Love Hackfort. It's my second year here. Somehow or another, I convinced them to let me back in, which is awesome. Before we get started, the topic is going to be methods to gain cyber competency. I've got an objective that we'll talk about, and an agenda I'll show you in a minute. But for those of you in the audience here, because you had a chance to attend here, I have a question for you. And whoever gets the answer will give me an email address. Give me an email address, and I will send you a gift card. What's the purpose, and what do you think the relevance of the building is? Anybody? No, not a dorm. No, that's a good idea. No. Where are we at? Huh? No, good thought. Where are we at? What's the conference that we're at? Hackfort. That's Hackfort Castle, believe it or not. So that little piece of trivia for you. All right. Quick intro. Who am I and what am I about? I am the intersection of three key things. I have been in the cybersecurity industry for 30 years, over 30 years now, and I've been in the technology industry longer. I have started and exited. We got some gain there. Yeah. Okay, good. I've 5 different companies in my career, selling my last company in 2018, moving to Boise in 2020 in the middle of COVID to help drive the Institute for Pervasive Cybersecurity. To me, that's all about workforce development. So that's my third career love, is workforce development. Why? Because over my 30-year career, I've seen this industry change and continue to grow to the point that even an optimist like myself has to realize that we're losing this war. And it's a cyber war, and it's a hot war, by the way, made hotter because of the more geopolitical issues that are going on. But it's also a war that we're losing because we don't have enough people. We have essentially, I'll put it this way, we're playing baseball against the best team that the New York Yankees can field. I don't care if you love or hate the Yankees. It's the best team that they've ever been able to field, and we're only putting 6 people on the field. We're playing with only 2/3 of the army that we should have. So workforce development is something that's near and dear to my heart. And that's what brought me to Boise State to drive this institute. Some of the key things that we do, quick little URL, that's the end of my blurb there about what we do. My agenda for today is 4 key things that we're going to chat about. And I want this to be interactive. So if you have questions along the way, don't hesitate. Raise a hand. We'll bring you a mic and get the questions asked. But really what I was hoping to be able to do is to talk about methods and approaches for people who are interested in getting into this space. Either you're a student, you're in high school wondering what cyber is about, or you're a mid-year or mid-career professional looking to upskill, reskill, you're looking to get out of an area. And what can you do to have a leg up in breaking into this industry? And what can you do to really change the career trajectory that you have to get into this industry and help us out? 4 key things that we're going to talk about. What do you want to do in cyber? Oftentimes I sit down and I chat with high schoolers and they say, I'd love to get into cyber, I don't know what to do. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and about the plethora of things that are available in terms of cyber. What sort of resources are available? Where do you want to go? How do you get there? Big other question I always get, do I need a formal education? Do I need certificates, industry certs, both? Well, how do I break into this? So that's really the core of what we're going to talk about. And we're going to wrap up where I'm going to put my former industry hat back on as a hiring manager, CEO, et cetera, somebody who's hired close to 1,000 different professionals over my career. How do you land the job? You make the decision to go down this path. How do you land the job? So we're going to talk a little bit about all 4 of those. First, we're going to talk about what do you want to do? Why do you want to get in here? Our typical perspectives of a cyber security professional, when I query people who aren't in the industry and I, just out and talking to the community, I typically see one of four key things. This kind of person, it's all about the matrix, or it's all about the hooded hacker or Mr. Robot. So it's a very pop culture oriented approach. And as you can tell, it's a very individualistic approach. It's this concept of I'm the hooded hacker breaking into things. And I'm the individual finding ways to create cybercrime or to thwart cybercrime. The reality is a lot different. Reality, just to set expectations, is that you're likely going to be working in a collaborative environment, a security operations center, where you're ingesting a lot of information, you're working in a collaborative team environment, you're passing data back and forth, you're using your critical thinking skills in a team environment to identify potential attackers and how to stop them and crafting ways to stop them. Every once in a while, hopefully not too many times, you're going to find yourself in the middle of a firefight and the world's going to be burning down. There's a lot of stress, but it's also it's necessary because, again, adversaries are hitting us all the time. So what you want to do may range from a very technically oriented set of criteria. And this is a good map. I love this map because it really gives the perspective of all the different ranges and domains within the cybersecurity field, including areas like governance, including areas like legal. It includes areas like operations, physical security, just a wide range of different areas that you might choose to go in terms of where you want your career path to take you. And in doing that, you can set yourself up, again, because we're only fielding 2/3 of the army we need, so to speak, you can set yourself up very, very nicely with a terrific job and terrific career on any one of these areas, any one of these different pathways. And if you decide that you want to jump, it's very easy to jump. We're going to get into some of the specifics in terms of curriculum and certification pathways that are out there and available at an industry level. But you can see that this is just a wide number of different pathways that are available. So if you're thinking about pivoting your career, or you're thinking about getting into this career, rest assured there's a place for you. Rest assured you don't need to be a deep mathematician. You could be highly proficient with people skills and get into training and still find a terrific career path. You could find yourself as a liberal arts major and getting into an area like risk management, where you're working with different organizations to identify what sort of risks they have and how to fix those risks. So it's a wide market, wide set of opportunities. In short, I liken it to say there's no singular path to success. What you have is, where you sit within various types of communities. You could be a high school grad or coming up on high school grad. You could be a reskilling learner, somebody who's already got a career who wants to pivot. You could be coming out of the military. You just want to understand where to go and how to get better cyber aware. Well, the great news is we've got a lot of different workplaces that you have opportunities to go. And there is no one singular path that allows you to go from one place to another. Instead, what I would say is cyber is all about two things, and I'll show you what they are. Cyber is about knowledge, gaining the necessary knowledge to be competent, and gaining the necessary skills to be competent. And I'll give you, in a short order, what I look at is two different stages of each. So career knowledge stage one is going to likely be somebody going through a 2-year associate's degree technical program at a community college. They may get various kinds of certs, industry certifications. You also then move into stage 2, where maybe you're going to get your bachelor's degree or your master's degree, your PhD. You want to go into this industry in a deeper fashion. You're building out your competency. You're building out skills, both on both sides. On the skill side, you're looking for places that you can go to that you can get into a simulated environment where you get a chance to act as a red team member, where you're attacking systems, or more importantly, actually, you're looking at blue team type of systems. If you're interested further after this talk, in room 400, the far corner, you'll see a blue tablecloth and there's a Boise State logo on it. We have student interns there working and showing people and interacting with you, showing you both sides of this, red team and blue team. So building this competency through knowledge and skills. So building it through curriculum at a university or a community college, building it through different industry certs, taking your skills, using those in simulations, using them in your jobs, and finding different pathways that will enable you to build that competency is critical, because that's what employers are looking for. We'll get into a little bit more detail in terms of some of the challenges we have in the industry, because we have a unicorn crisis, is what I like to call it. We have people who are sitting as gatekeepers in HR, saying you need to have 20 years of cyber experience, be a CISSP, and be a PhD in order to get an entry-level job. That's part of the other side of this challenge that we're also facing, and I'm just being straight up in this conversation. So I also like to address a couple of key core concepts and core questions I also get, which are, why should you pursue a career? So, I'm interested, Ed, but why should I do it? What about me makes me interested in this? Well, do you want to serve? I think that's really core. That's one of the key pieces of information I'd leave you with is, do you want to serve the company you work for, the region you work in, the state you work in, the city, the country? I can't emphasize enough the fact that we're needing people. We can have all the technology in the world, all the fancy silver bullets in the world, but we don't have anybody to shoot the gun, so to speak. We have nobody to help defend us. So you have to have a willingness to serve and a willingness to be a part of a team. This is not an individually oriented kind of industry. Even our adversaries don't think about things from an individual standpoint anymore. They are building themselves into criminal organizations and nation-state organizations that are team-oriented. You may have a specialization, but you're part of a team with a mission. You enjoy constant learning. I wake up every day. It's one of the joys of this industry. 30 years in, I wake up every single day and I know I'm going to learn something new. It doesn't matter where the source is, but I'm learning something new because cyber is so pervasive to our lives. Admittedly, your mindset about cyber is not necessarily always about building things. You have to take an approach and a perspective that says, I want to break things. How would somebody break into this? And then how do I defend it? So you have to have that perspective of flipping the switch to say, I want to break things. And then while I don't necessarily have a guarantee of this last item, 30 years into this industry, for those of you who are young in your careers, you're early in your careers, you're looking at this industry as an opportunity, I've never been without a job, 30 years in. It's as recession-proof as you can possibly get, at least from my experience. No guarantee of that in the future, of course, but it's as recession-proof as you can get. I'm also asked the question, if I'm aware of cyber, if I take the time to drop into this industry, what sort of job roles? And I'm not going to go into these in much detail because there's a different slide that we have that goes into a lot more detail and I think gives a much broader perspective. But ultimately, what makes a good cyber professional, I think, is one of the key questions I'm then also asked. And I love this slide. This is a really terrific slide that gives, this graphic gives some really interesting pieces of information. CareerOneStop.org built out this cybersecurity model after talking to a number of different people in the industry. And you can see here, if you can read through this really quickly, you're not necessarily seeing any sort of one particular protocol, one particular type of technology. This is all people oriented. In fact, let me build this out for everybody. These first two tiers, personal effectiveness, you got to have interpersonal skills. You got to be able to communicate. You got to work with integrity. Again, you got a willingness to serve, and you're professional in your approach. Once you get up into the academic competencies, some of the key ones that you see here: reading, writing, mathematics. Reading, writing, the ability to communicate. These are core things that are necessary in cyber. So as you're thinking about getting into this industry, think about the fact, how do I build my communication skills? How do I build my writing skills? Or how do I build my speaking skills if you need to build that out? It's not until higher level areas of learning that you get into more industry specific, industry focused areas. So, what resources? Let me go ahead and actually, I'm going to break out of this because I think this is it's better shown if I can get it to not demo fail on me. Cyberseek.org is an absolutely fantastic website. If you can take any one key website out of this, cyberseek.org is really, really good because it has two critical pieces to it. It gives you an interactive map, and the interactive map gives you a perspective of the fact that we have almost 600,000 jobs going unfilled across the country. And you can get very specific and very granular at a state level. And you can see, oops, if I actually click the click, there we go. You can see Idaho by itself has almost 3,000 job openings in cyber. They're waiting there for you. Just literally waiting for you to say, you know what, I want to get into this industry, I want to learn, I want to pivot my career, or I want to jump into this and do something to help the country. The other thing that CyberSeek has, that I really enjoy, is the career pathway. It gives you a perspective on the different kinds of roles. So if, let's say, for example, you want to reskill and you're a networking person. If you want to move in from networking, you can quickly see off of this that you can move into any one of these particular roles with the right level of information, right level of background. So if we just click on entry level, the other thing it gives you is where you can move yourself. You start out as a cybersecurity specialist, you can move into an analyst role, a consultant role, penetration and vulnerability tester. These are backed by the fact that the group that runs CyberSeek is constantly querying the industry. Where can somebody go with this kind of role? Where can they go to mid-level? Where can they go to an advanced level? The other site that I really appreciate, let me move over here and move my slides down, is the NICCS, the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Careers and Studies. This is a great pathway tool. If you're really interested in getting into this, you can start to see the different areas that you can start from and the types of pathways that you can move through. Each one of these kinds of job roles have their own specific areas that you can jump from and to in terms of one step or two step. So if I go from here to here, I can quickly start to see how these things line up together. So I can start out as a database administrator, make the jump to cyber legal advisor, because maybe I'm dealing with specific kinds of legal data sets, or because I get more attuned to a particular legal understanding of cyber. I can jump to a privacy officer. You can see very quickly the pathways that you can take that are available. It's a great tool. Highly, highly recommend both those. So cyberseek.org and niccs.cisa.gov, CISA.gov. All right. I'll wait for the screen to catch up. So other resources. There's a ton of resources that are available online. Constantly upgrading, constantly refreshed resources that are available. First and foremost, I'm blown away as an industry professional by the amount of data and education material and opportunity that NIST has put together around online learning content. There's just a huge amount of data out there and huge amount of available courses. These courses are for free in many instances, in most instances, and I would highly recommend that one. YouTube is a gold mine if you're looking to break into blue team, red team, specific kinds of areas. There's a huge number of opportunities with YouTube. MOOCs, massive open online courses, iTunes, edX, others, Coursera, etc. If you noticed, even though I work at Boise State, I'm talking about free stuff. So if you want to break in and see whether or not this is an industry you want to get into before you jump into a college or a university program, you can start with any one of these and begin to see whether or not this is of something that you're finding of interest. There are podcasts, there are just free resources all over. There's also industry certification pathways. So you've got a number of different organizations that have come together outside of the academic sphere, and they have aligned various models for different types of certifications. Some of them that use CompTIA is a good one. EC Council and CompTIA tend to compete. SANS is an organization that actually is by itself probably one of the top industry certification providers in terms of knowledge and skill development. They're also an academic institution. You can get your bachelor's degree, you can get your master's degree from SANS. It's quite expensive. There are also different groups you can join. So the Information Systems Audit Control Association, or ISACA, the Information Systems Security, I forget what C stands for, ISC squared, the Information Systems Security Association, or ISSA, are just three national organizations that have local chapters here in Boise, Twin Falls, Idaho Falls. They bring industry professionals together to talk and also enable people who are interested in getting into this field. Great organizations that have a lot of info. All right. Do you need a formal education? What do you think? No, right? Do you need industry certs? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe it's both. My answer is yes. Simply put, you do need some type of degree, generally speaking, in my circle of professional network. CISOs, deputy CISOs, industry leaders, we tend to think about things in the fact that a degree shows some sort of personal commitment to advance yourself. It can be an associate's degree. It doesn't have to be an industry cert. It can be an associate's degree with an industry cert. It could be a bachelor's degree with an industry cert. Could you come in with just industry certs? Certainly. And certainly experience. Certainly. My perspective would be do both. This is a great example of the type of curriculum stacks that your higher education institutes around Idaho. So I'm using Boise State. Obviously, I'm biased. But this type of curriculum stack where we have certificates, so not industry certs, but certificates, not certifications, but these are concerted areas where you can come in and take an instructor-led online course. You can take a hybrid course where you can take specific kinds of industry knowledge, pull it together, or curriculum knowledge, pull it together, and have a certificate that you can put on your resume. We have different degree programs, bachelor's degree programs, master's degree programs, even a PhD in computing with a cybersecurity emphasis. So you can certainly know that your local community college, your local university has programs like this available for you if you're interested in going down a degree track. And these degree programs and certificate programs will provide you good, solid knowledge, and oftentimes good, solid simulational experience to be able to say, hey, I at least understand this industry and I can talk the talk. Now, in terms of certificates, industry certifications, I mentioned that there are a couple, and I'm going to go through them really quickly here. CompTIA has, I think, a very, very good program that starts if you have no understanding of IT. You can spell technology 3 times out of 4, like me. You can get a fundamentals certification. That pathway builds all the way on up, Security Plus, Cybersecurity Analyst Plus, Cyber Analyst and Security Professional, I think it is. But they're very, very stackable kinds of industry certs. This is the EC Council certification map, and you can see they took a slightly different approach. They went ahead and said, hey, I just want to get fundamental information. I want to get intermediate information. I need a core. So EC Council got really well known for creating what was called the Certified Ethical Hacker. So if you're really interested in red teaming or trying to break into things, EC Council's program is a good entry-level program. If you're looking for an entry-level role in cyber and you're looking for a red team kind of role, that's not a bad one to get. They've also now moved into different kinds of certifications where you can get specialists. So forensic investigator, as an example, digital response professional. Digital response professional. You can also get different kinds of advanced certifications, as well as executive leadership certifications. So good solid map, depending upon where you want to go. Each of these are, again, programmatically developed. They're typically online. There's a test at the end a rigorous test that you go through to turn around and say, yep, I passed this and now I can put this on my resume. Remember, I mentioned the national chapters, ISACA, ISC squared, so forth. They also have very specific kinds of certifications that they offer. And they range from very, very advanced, certified C-risk certifications, the information security manager, which is more management oriented. It's not technically oriented. If you wanted to go down the audit path, there's a very specific auditor certification that they happen to have. Again, I'm going to go back to that image I showed of all the different domains and all the different pathways. They try to line to these in some form or fashion. The ISC squared, these are various different healthcare, the healthcare information security privacy professional, somebody keep me honest. But these, each of these different groups have built out different programs that allow you as an entry level or as a mid-career technology professional to be able to pivot into one of these kinds of programs and get the necessary training, get the necessary acronym after your name, and it gives you a leg up in having the conversation and applying for opportunities out in the market. This next graphic is, it requires me to always preface by saying that any sort of IT conversation, any sort of IT presentation always has to have an eye chart. It's a mandatory requirement. I'm sorry, it's just absolutely mandatory. And it's a test to see whether or not your glasses work. And barely up here, my old man eyes can barely read most of this. But what I point you to is the challenge we have in the industry. The challenge we have in the industry is that the need is so great. Again, the need for people is so great that there are a lot of different providers of different kinds of certifications. This is a certification map that I think was updated, if memory serves, I think last year. And there are already new certifications that are coming on out that haven't been put into version 8. It's a massive acronym soup. So this is why I say a degree. Yeah, consider a degree, because at least it helps identify for a potential employer. You commit to yourself. You understand how to do some certain things. It can be very technically oriented, but still you commit to the fact that you're about learning. And then choose based upon the pathway. So here's communication and network security. Here's the plethora of different types of cybersecurity related certs that you can get within there. Identity and access management, or IAM. You just want to turn around and provision user accounts and change passwords all day long for people. You got certifications in there too. Security architecture and engineering, asset security, all the way across these various domains. You can just see this huge range of different certs that are out there. And if you were paying attention to some of the slides I showed before, you can see some of these that go across the board. So, SSCP was on the prior line for ISC squared. It crosses different domains. Crosses into awareness and testing, security and risk management, asset security, and so forth. So leverage this if you're interested in getting into the industry, because what this helps with is this middle section right here, industry and sector functional areas, as well as the industry-wide technical competencies. These two are where you're going to see the most use out of your certs by far. All right. Last item. How do you land the job? So I'm going to take off my Boise State hat and put on my former CEO hat and former hiring manager hat. To me, once you've made the decision to go into the industry, once you've made the decision to turn around and take this forward step, you got to network. You got to network. You got to get involved. Yep. You got to get involved in places like Hackfort. You got to get involved in places like ISC squared, ISSA, ISACA. You got to get involved in your community. Be willing to get up and speak. Remember, I showed you the slide that said, one of the key competencies that we need in cyber is writing and speaking, writing and communication. This sort of method, this sort of approach is necessary because this is how we're passing the torch. You got to be willing to give back. You got to be willing to provide service. That's what this is about giving back and doing service for not only your company that you work for or the organization you work for, but for your city, state, country. Can't emphasize it enough. We're losing this war. I need every one of you to realize, yep, I'm going to jump on in and become a cyber professional. And even that, I need you to go off and recruit 100 other people. And even then, I need those 100 people to go off and recruit another 100 people. And maybe we'll start to make an impact. Understanding the mind of the HR gatekeeper. Last point. I mentioned this earlier. One of the challenges we have in the industry is that our HR people and even some of our own cybersecurity professionals try to put too much emphasis across too many requirements. I want a 20-year professional with a PhD in cyber and 20 certs to come in and make $69,000 a year. Guess what? That's not ever going to happen. So you, as you're out looking for different opportunities, need to be aware that you need to identify those kinds of jobs and those kinds of opportunities that align to your pathway. I can guarantee you that if you decide to go into this and you put forward the emphasis to identify the best possible approach and you use that as a stepping stone through your career, there are opportunities out there. The need is great. We need you in this war. And follow the types of pathways that I've talked about here, and you'll find yourself on a good career path. Questions? Yes. Yeah, one in particular are cyber operations and resilience. Yeah, the question was, does Boise State in particular have any of those industry certs built into the degree pathway? And our cyber operations and resilience program does. That it has, in fact, it has a requirement that you have to, before you get your bachelor's degree, have to get an industry cert. So that industry cert can range. It can be a Security Plus from CompTIA. It could be a ECH from EC Council. It could be a different type of cert, but it's got to have a cert. And our master's program are in the same vein of cyber operations and resilience. Also requires our graduates to actually go back into the classroom and teach. So. Thank you. Yeah.
Do you have any bridge or feeder programs built into your graduation for local companies?
So do we have any bridge programs for existing employers to have people come back and either come through a degree or something else? Quick answer is yes at Boise State. I can't speak to any of the others. I think CWI, College of Western Idaho, does as well, but in particular, I know Boise State does. We'll gladly work with our employers like Micron and Albertsons to say, and anybody else, it doesn't have to be a major employer like that. Let's take a look at the skill sets and identify those skills. If possible, we actually have degree programs like our cyber ops program that I mentioned before that actually enable prior learning credit. So you come in with different kinds of credits associated based upon your experience. And then also build the type of program specific to the needs of our employers. I didn't talk about it because I didn't want to do too much of a Boise State commercial, but we're also launching an academy program for industry certs. So CompTIA, EC Council, all of those. So if you do want to come in and you don't want to go into a degree program and you want to necessarily get for credit, you can come into a program and get your industry cert. So if you want to upskill, let's say you've been in the industry for 10, 15 years in the technology industry, or 5, 10, 15, doesn't matter, and you just want to get into cyber, well, then you can come on in. You don't have to sign up for all the classes and go through all your gen ed and all that sort of stuff. You can come into a program that you're being instructed. It's a 2, 4, 6 week kind of program, and it leads to an industry cert. Other questions, please?
Any suggestions on getting past the algorithms?
So that's a fantastic question, and it's almost its own talk. Any methods or approaches on getting past the algorithms? Yes. And the algorithms in this case are, keep in mind that you have major job platforms, Indeed, LinkedIn, I'm not trying to point them out in particular, just all of them have some sort of algorithmic approach to say, you know what, you don't score well enough, you're going in the circular file. You don't score well enough, okay, you do, come on in here. What that leads to and is leading to in the industry is a lot of people purposely gaming the system to say, you know what, I've got all this to at least get through the gatekeeper. And I almost hate to say it because I've been on both sides. You almost have to game it. I have no better way to say it. So my advice, first and foremost, don't lie. Don't lie. Remember what I said, integrity is important in this industry. You start lying on a resume and start trying to say, hey, you know what? I actually have 15 years of experience because I'm 18 years old. No, come on. That's going to be found out really, really fast. But identify what's being asked for in the job and make certain that your resume or your profile that you submit clearly calls out those particular identified fields or identified requirements. That's going to get you through the algorithms to at least an HR gatekeeper who, if you then clearly articulate the why you want that job, and this is the important side, taking the time as the job seeker to craft your individual application and emphasizing the why you want this job and what you can do for that employer is just as important nowadays to get you to somebody who's actually on the hiring side of HR, who can actually then say, you know what, you got the skills, you got the competencies we need. I'll take the chance, you come on in and start this process. But you have to be willing to build your resume or your profile in a fashion that meets the algorithmic needs, gets through that first gatekeeper, and then identifies for the HR gatekeeper why you want this job. Then you'll get to a hiring manager. 8 times out of 10. Great questions. Others? I hope this has been helpful. I really do. My contact information is down at the bottom there. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Again, 30 years in this industry, not only do I have a really, really deep network of industry professionals, but I'm also, as you saw at the very beginning, I'm highly committed to workforce development. You're interested at all in getting into this space, come see me. I want to help you and point you in the right kind of direction. It may not necessarily be Boise State. It should be, but it may not necessarily always be Boise State to start. So thank you all.